independent nation, just 14 years old. It would be both Australia and New Zealand's first contribution to the world independent from Britain. What seared itself into our national souls was the sheer scale of the casualties. Historians say that Gallipoli was an ill-conceived campaign, premised on an underestimation of the military prowess, character, and tactical advantages of the Turkish soldiers. Winston Churchill was Gallipoli's architect. He was provided with only half the men his strategy called for, and regrettably, it is now recognized as one of the world's major military failures of all time. 100 years ago today, in the early dark of morning, 36 large rowing boats, towed by naval boats, left the British ships and set sail for the beaches of Gallipoli to invade Turkey and to take the capital, Istanbul. As the first boats crunched against rock and sand, our soldiers scrambled ashore, only to be slaughtered by the enemy machine guns firing down on them. The tragedy now known is that the Anzacs, under British command, had been directed to land where the Turkish forces were strongest and the artillery fire thickest. We now know this place today as Anzac Cove. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, some 12,000 men had landed, and by the end of that day, 2,000 of them were dead. Through perseverance, courage, and comradeship, they held their ground by digging in trenches, earning them the nickname Diggers. As the news of the casualties began to filter back home, so did the heroism of the Anzacs. The British, the French, and even the Turks were amazed at the toughness and resilience of our soldiers. The way the Anzacs bore the brunt of the fight in the Dardanelles stirred a new feeling of camaraderie in Australians and New Zealanders everywhere. Suddenly, the rest of the world began to see our two great nations no longer as an offshoot of Britain, but as an independent and very independent character. Gallipoli was a defining moment. Our consciousness of nationhood was born, regardless of religion, racial background, or even place of birth. Anzacs were a brotherhood. 50 Aboriginal soldiers fought in the Australian Imperial Force. It would take another 50 years before they were granted the right to vote. And our greatest sniper of all time, Billy Singh, a Chinese-Australian soldier, was awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal, an honour second only to the Victoria Cross. 9 Australians and 1 New Zealander were awarded Victoria Crosses at Gallipoli. Over the 8 months following the landing, those young Anzacs underwent a trial by ordeal. In total, 36,000 of the 60,000 Anzacs that landed in Gallipoli were killed or wounded. Yet in those months in the trenches, a spirit developed. The achievements of the Anzacs were measured by their actions, leaving us all a powerful legacy, the Anzac legend. Over 100 years, the term Anzac has transcended the physical meaning to become a spirit, an inspiration that embodies the qualities of courage, discipline, resourcefulness, and self-reliance. But to these traits, the Anzacs added a few unique qualities of their own: mateship, trust, a discipline based on earned respect and not assumed worth, cunning initiative. They were likeable, and they were known for their wry humour and for giving all a fair go. Anzac is not merely a date, a place on a map, or a failed war campaign. It is a spirit bequeathed to us from that battlefield long ago. The essence of Gallipoli was that in the face of adversity and potential defeat, the Australian and New Zealand spirit triumphed. It lives on today because it is a true reflection of the very heart of our nations. So we come together to remember all those individuals who made personal sacrifices, honour those who died for us, and thank them for their absolute commitment to the ideals of freedom and peace, so we may enjoy it today. We do not celebrate victory or glorify war. Instead, we celebrate the human spirit. And on this 100th anniversary, acknowledge that the Anzac spirit is invincible. And in closing, I would like to share the words inscribed at the War Memorial in Sydney's Hyde Park, and let it guide us in all our remembrance here today. Let silent contemplation be your offering. Thank you.